Good morning, dear friend. Can you hear the birds softly stirring in the hedges? Can you feel the sun gently warming the rim of your teacup as it rests on the old wooden table beside you? Maybe you're sitting on the porch now watching your favorite potted plant stretch toward the light slowly and silently, doing what it does best, just growing. Not fussing, not racing, just quietly thriving. That's the kind of gardening I want to share with you today. Because maybe like me, you've reached a season in life where energy is something you spend more carefully. The knees don't bend quite like they used to. The back reminds you of its limits. And yet the heart still wants to garden, to tend, to beautify, to surround yourself with life. So, what if I told you that you don't have to start over every spring? That there are plants, good, dependable, beautiful plants that will return to you each year just like an old friend pulling into the driveway with a smile and a casserole. These aren't flashy newcomers that disappear with the first frost. These are perennials, strong, steady, and often overlooked that do beautifully in containers. And I call them a lazy gardener's dream. But really, they're a wise gardener's secret. Today, I'm going to take you on a gentle stroll through 15 of my favorite perennials that flourish in pots. Whether you've got a tiny patio, a beloved front porch, or just one sunny spot near your chair, these plants will offer beauty without burden. They'll save you time, save you money, and most of all, they'll remind you that gardening, like life, doesn't have to be hard to be meaningful. So pour a little more tea settle into your favorite seat and let's begin. You don't need youth or strength or even much space, just a little pot and a whole lot of heart. Remember the joy of finding that one reliable thing like a cozy cardigan that always fits just right, or that old enamel mug that keeps your tea warm longer than it should. That's what coral bells feel like in the garden. Steady, lovely, and always adding a little extra comfort to your life. Also called heuchera. Coral bells are one of those quiet superstars that don't need a big show to be unforgettable. Instead of flashy blooms, they offer foliage, but oh, what foliage! Picture shades of deep plum apple, green sunset, orange, dusty silver, and even peachy pink. Sometimes all in one plant. It's like a living patchwork quilt tucked into a pot. Best of all, they're incredibly forgiving. These beauties do best in partial shade, making them perfect for those tricky corners on your porch or under the eaves where sun and shadow dance. No need to chase the light. Coral bells are happy to stay put. I've kept mine in the same container for 5 years now. With just a bit of care, they keep showing up season after season. Here's how to grow them, dear friend. Choose a container with good drainage and fill it with quality potting mix. Plant your coral bells snugly. They like to be cozy. Water regularly, especially during dry spells, and give them a little liquid feed once or twice a season if you feel generous. But truth be told, they'll thrive even if you forget once in a while. Their evergreen or semi-evergreen leaves mean you'll enjoy color well beyond the growing season. Some even keep their tones through the winter, especially if your climate is mild. And if you're lucky, delicate flower stalks will appear in summer tiny bells that nod gently in the breeze, drawing in hummingbirds and smiles alike. Coral bells are also perfect for layering. Try tucking them beside taller ferns or grasses, or let them spill over the edge of a rustic metal bucket or old wooden crate. Their low mounding shape makes them ideal for softening corners or adding texture to your pot arrangement. And if your hands aren't as strong as they once were, you'll be glad to know they're light and easy to move. There's something comforting about a plant that doesn't ask for much, but still gives so much in return. It reminds me of us aging gracefully, a little slower maybe, but still full of color, still offering beauty that lasts. Coral bells whisper to the gardener, you don't need to bloom loudly to be remembered. Do you remember the first time you noticed how morning light paints silver along the edge of a leaf? That hush of beauty that doesn't ask to be admired but rewards those who look closely. That's exactly the feeling Japanese painted fern brings to a container garden, quiet elegance that deepens with every season. This isn't your average backyard fern. Its fronds unfurl like brush strokes from an artist's hand. Silvery centers shaded with soft green, sometimes touched with a hint of burgundy along the spine. It's the kind of plant that makes you lean in, take a second glance, and smile without realizing it. Japanese painted fern is a true shade lover. If you have a north-facing patio, a covered porch, or that spot beneath a leafy tree where little else seems to thrive, This is your answer. Tucked into a terracotta pot or an old ceramic bowl, it turns dull corners into serene focal points. Unlike many plants that chase the sun, this one is content in the cool, a good companion for the more restful parts of your day. Caring for it is beautifully simple. Start with a medium-sized pot that has good drainage. Fill it with a rich moisture-retaining potting mix, something that mimics the forest floor it naturally calls home. Plant your fern just deep enough to keep the crown above the soil, water it in, and let it settle. It prefers soil that stays lightly moist, but not soggy. A gentle weekly watering usually does the trick unless the heat creeps in. Then a little extra drink will be appreciated. One of the most comforting things about this plant is how little fuss it requires. There's no pruning, no staking, no waiting for flowers. The foliage is the show. And what a show it is, arching gracefully like soft green feathers, catching the light in a way that makes even the stillest morning feel alive. Japanese painted ferns pair beautifully with hostas, or even delicate white impatiens if you'd like to add a little bloom. But truly, they hold their own. Just one plant in a weathered pot can be all you need to create a moment of calm. And if you're someone who treasures things that get better with age, you'll appreciate how this plant grows more beautiful as it settles in. Each year its crown grows fuller, the colors richer, the fronds longer. It doesn't rush. It simply matures, a quiet metaphor for the gardener who tends it. This fern doesn't scream for attention. It whispers beauty. And sometimes, dear friend, that's exactly what we need. Have you ever run your fingers over a baby blanket or the fuzzy edge of a beloved old quilt and felt instantly comforted? Lamb's ear gives you that same feeling, but right in your garden. With its soft silver leaves that feel like velvet, this perennial is more than just a pretty plant. It's a sensory experience, a memory trigger, and a quiet companion for your container garden. Lamb's ear, with its silvery gray color and fuzzy texture, is the kind of plant that invites touch. Grandchildren love it. Guests notice it. And for us, it brings something grounding, a reminder that nature can be both resilient and gentle. It's no wonder this plant is a favorite for sensory gardens and peaceful corners alike. What makes lamb's ear ideal for container gardening is its resilience. Once it's settled, it barely asks for anything. It's drought-tolerant, sun-loving, and forgiving. That makes it perfect for anyone who forgets to water now and then, or who simply wants a garden that doesn't feel like a chore. To grow lamb's ear, choose a medium or shallow pot with excellent drainage. These plants don't like soggy feet. Fill your pot with a light, well-draining mix. Even a cactus blend will do. Then plant your lamb's ear and give it a gentle watering. After that, just let the sun do the work. It thrives in full sun but can tolerate partial shade, especially in warmer climates. Once established, this plant spreads softly across the pot, forming a low, plush mat of foliage. It's beautiful on its own or as a backdrop to brighter flowers. Think deep purple petunias or coral-colored begonias. And in summer, tall, silvery flower spikes emerge dotted with tiny lavender blooms that bees and butterflies adore. Even the blooms, while modest, have their own charm. Trimming is minimal. If the plant gets a little leggy or brown in places, just snip off the tired leaves and it'll fill back in. It's also easy to divide. Just lift a clump, gently separate it, and start another pot. You'll have gifts for neighbors or more beauty to scatter around your porch. And isn't that the kind of gardening we need now? One that's soft on the hands, easy on the back, and full of surprise joys. A pot of lamb's ear near your favorite chair isn't just decorative, it's soothing. It catches morning dew like little diamonds and reflects the sunlight in a soft, silvery glow. To me, lamb's ear is a reminder that age brings texture, beauty, and depth. It may not be flashy, but it brings comfort, and in this world, comfort is a kind of magic. Do you remember springtime drives through the countryside when all of a sudden you'd pass a low stone wall or gentle hill absolutely smothered in blooms? That breathtaking moment when pinks, purples, and blues cascade like water down the slope. That, dear friend, was likely creeping phlox. And yes, you can have that same magic on your porch tucked right into a container. Creeping phlox is one of those plants that delights without demanding. A true perennial performer, it bursts into bloom each spring like a joyful announcement. The cold is over. Life is back. Its tiny star-shaped flowers form thick mats of color that spill beautifully over the edge of pots, like a floral waterfall frozen mid-motion. For container gardeners, it's a dream come true. It stays low and tidy, needs little care, and returns stronger each year. Choose a wide, shallow container to give it room to spread. A lightweight plastic planter, an old dishpan, or even a painted drawer will work perfectly. Just make sure it drains well. Phlox likes things on the dry side once it's established. Fill your pot with a well-draining potting mix. Place your creeping phlox so the crown sits at soil level, then water it in. After that, this plant does most of the work on its own. Full sun is best, though it will tolerate light shade. Once blooming starts in early spring, you'll be amazed by how completely it covers itself in color. You might not even see the leaves beneath. The color choices are like a candy shop: lavender, bright pink, soft white, deep purple, even striped varieties. And it doesn't just please the eye. Butterflies and beneficial insects adore it, making your little patio pot part of the greater garden ecosystem. One of my favorite ways to use creeping phlox is to plant it near the edge of a tall container, letting it tumble over the sides. It looks like nature's own lace trim. Or pair it with upright perennials like sedum or dwarf grasses for a pleasing contrast in height and texture. It also blends beautifully in hanging baskets, a sweet alternative to trailing annuals that need replacing each season. And perhaps the best part: as the years go on, creeping phlox only gets fuller, healthier, and more generous. A gentle trim after blooming helps shape it and encourages future growth, but even if you forget, it forgives. That kind of resilience is rare and welcome. In a world that often values what's new and fast, creeping phlox reminds us that slow and steady beauty has its place. It doesn't bloom all season. It blooms when it matters. And when it does, it takes your breath away. There's something so delightful about discovering a burst of unexpected color in the shade, like stumbling on a hidden fireworks show in the middle of a quiet forest. That's exactly what a stilbe offers. These graceful plants bloom in plumes of pink, white, red, or lavender, lighting up the dimmer corners of your patio or porch with soft, feathery beauty. A stilbe is often called the queen of shade, and for good reason. While many perennials sulk in low light, a stilbe thrives there. Its finely divided fern-like foliage provides structure and interest even before it blooms. Then, just as late spring warms into early summer, tall spires of color rise from the plant like little garden fireworks, not loud or flashy, but elegant and full of life. What I love most is that a stilbe brings drama without drama. It doesn't fuss, doesn't sprawl, and doesn't demand constant care. In a container, it sits neatly and gracefully, like a guest who knows how to make an impression without overstaying their welcome. To grow a stilbe in pots, pick a container at least 10–12 inches deep. This plant enjoys moist, rich soil, so be sure to use a potting mix that retains water well. You might even mix in a bit of compost or peat moss to help it hold moisture longer. Place the pot in a spot that gets morning sun and afternoon shade or bright, indirect light all day. Watering is the most important part of a stilbe care. These plants like to stay consistently moist, not wet, not soggy, but never bone dry. Think of it like a damp sponge, soft and steady. If you're the kind of gardener who enjoys checking in on your plants with a morning cup of tea, a stilbe will reward your attention with healthy growth and lasting blooms. Their tall, showy flowers can reach 12 to 18 inches depending on the variety. After they fade, you can snip them off or leave them standing. The dried plumes catch the light in lovely ways and add winter texture if you let them stay. And the foliage remains handsome throughout the summer, blending well with other shade-loving perennials like hostas ferns and Japanese forest grass. A stilbe is a wonderful companion plant in mixed containers. Tuck it behind a border of low-growing coral bells or around the edges of a large pot with hostas. It adds height without bulk, drama without disorder. But more than anything, it brings surprise, that lovely, unexpected thrill when something blooms where you least expect it. In life, as in gardening, it's often those quiet corners that hold the greatest beauty. A stilbe is a reminder that even in the shade, there's room to shine. All it takes is the right place, a little patience, and a touch of care. Some plants dazzle with blooms, others with fragrance. But ornamental grasses, they enchant with motion and silence. You don't even realize how much you need them until the breeze rustles through and suddenly your whole porch or patio feels alive, like the garden is breathing alongside you. There's a certain kind of peace that grasses bring. They don't shout for attention. They don't crowd their neighbors. They sway, they shimmer, and they give your container garden rhythm, the kind that soothes the spirit and calms the mind. For container gardening, ornamental grasses are often overlooked, but they're some of the most rewarding plants you can grow. Choose compact varieties like blue fescue, Japanese forest grass, or dwarf fountain grass. These are well-behaved in pots and won't outgrow their space quickly. They're perfect for small patios or balconies, and they pair beautifully with flowering perennials or low-growing foliage plants. Let's talk setup. Pick a medium to large pot, something wide and stable to balance the upright movement of the grass. Use a well-draining potting mix, and don't be afraid to let the soil dry out a bit between waterings. Many grasses prefer it that way. Fountain grass and blue fescue, for instance, are quite drought-tolerant once established. Sun is essential for most varieties. Full to partial sun will keep your grasses upright, full, and glowing with color. Blue fescue turns a silvery steel blue under bright light. Fountain grasses blush with pink-tinged plumes in late summer. And Japanese forest grass, a shade lover, glows golden in dappled light like a fountain of sunshine at your feet. Once they've settled in, ornamental grasses require almost no maintenance. Trim them back in late winter or early spring to make room for fresh growth. They won't need deadheading, staking, or fussing. Just the occasional drink a bit of fertilizer if you feel inclined, and the freedom to move with the wind. One of the unexpected gifts of container grasses is how they change with the seasons. In spring, they emerge fresh and green. By summer, they're full and soft. In fall, many turn golden bronze or even crimson, catching low afternoon light like spun gold. And in winter, even when dormant, their dried seed heads and arching forms offer sculptural interest, especially with a dusting of frost. They also invite life. Birds perch in them. Butterflies rest among their blades. Even a light breeze becomes a quiet song when it brushes through the grass tips. Sitting nearby feels like listening to nature exhale. In a way, ornamental grasses are like us in later years, quiet, steady, and full of subtle beauty that reveals itself more the longer you sit still. They ask for little and give so much. Let them dance, dear friend. You deserve to watch something that moves softly with the world. Some plants are like old friends who never ask for much but always show up with a smile. That's sedum for you, dependable, cheerful, and tough as nails. If you've ever forgotten to water your plants for a few days or even longer, sedum will forgive you. In fact, it thrives on a bit of neglect. A true gift for the lazy gardener, or let's say, the wise one who doesn't want to hover. Sedum belongs to the succulent family, which means it stores water in its thick, fleshy leaves. You can actually feel the difference. The leaves are plump, like tiny pillows holding on to life. This special trait makes it a perfect choice for container gardening, especially in sunny spots where other plants might wither and complain. There are countless varieties of sedum to explore. Some creep gently over the edge of pots, like a living waterfall, think Angelina, with its golden tones, or dragon's blood, in deep red. Others stand upright with strong architectural forms like autumn joy, or matrona, blooming late into the season when most plants have called it quits. To grow sedum in containers, all you need is a well-draining mix. Even cactus soil will do. Choose a shallow or medium-depth pot with drainage holes, and don't overthink the watering schedule. Sedum prefers to dry out completely between waterings. In fact, too much water is one of the few ways you can upset it. Sun is your best friend here. Place your sedum containers where they'll bask in at least 6 hours of direct light. In return, the leaves will take on rich tones, especially in the cool of fall. And just when other flowers are fading, many sedums start to bloom, tight clusters of star-like flowers in pink, red, or white that butterflies simply can't resist. Maintenance is as easy as brushing your teeth. Just snip off any leggy growth in spring, and your plant will bounce back better than ever. If it gets too big for its pot, break off a few pieces and stick them in soil. They root so easily, you'll be giving pots of sedum away to neighbors in no time. Sedum plays well with others too. It's lovely paired with upright grasses, purple fountain plants, or even trailing lobelia for a little color contrast. And in winter, the dried flower heads often remain upright, adding structure and charm even when dusted with snow. What I love most about sedum is its resilience. It doesn't need pampering. It doesn't pout when conditions aren't perfect. It just keeps going quietly, beautifully, and with grace. Like many of us, it has learned to store up strength for dry seasons. And when the time is right, it blooms. In a world that often asks too much, sedum reminds us that thriving doesn't have to be complicated. Do you remember the kind of person who always made an entrance cheerful, warm, lighting up every room they walked into, even if only for a short while? That's what daylilies are like in the garden. Each blossom stays for just a single day, but oh, what a show it gives. And thankfully, they come back again and again with more buds waiting behind each bloom like a happy little parade. Daylilies are often called the workhorses of the perennial world, and rightly so. They're low-maintenance, long-blooming, and remarkably forgiving. If you want something that will give you color for weeks on end without any fuss, this is the plant for your container garden. And yes, they do beautifully in pots. With slender grass-like foliage that remains tidy, daylilies are great structural plants. But the real magic is in the flowers. Trumpet-shaped and elegant, they come in a rainbow of colors from buttery yellow and peachy coral to deep burgundy apricot and almost black purple. Some even have ruffled edges or eye-catching patterns at the center. There's truly a variety for every mood and every patio. To grow daylilies in a container, choose a pot that's at least 12 inches deep. These plants have fleshy roots that need space to spread out. Make sure the pot has drainage holes and fill it with a well-draining mix enriched with a bit of compost. Set your plant so the crown is just at the soil level and give it a good drink. Full sun is key, at least 6 hours per day, to encourage abundant blooms. But if your patio only gets morning sun or dappled light in the afternoon, don't worry. Some varieties are perfectly content in part shade, especially in warmer climates. Water when the top inch of soil feels dry. During hot spells, containers dry out faster, so check often. And for a little extra bloom power, you can sprinkle in a slow-release fertilizer in spring. Other than that, daylilies don't need much. Just remove spent blooms to keep things looking tidy and enjoy the wave of buds that follows. After a few years, your container might get crowded, and that's actually a blessing. You can lift the plant divided into smaller clumps and start new pots or share them with friends. It's the gift that keeps on giving. What I love about daylilies isn't just their ease or their beauty. It's their rhythm, that daily cycle of opening and closing, blooming and resting. They remind us to show up fully even for just a moment, to brighten someone's morning, to be present even if briefly. In a container or in life, daylilies teach us that it's okay to bloom for a day as long as we bloom again tomorrow. There's something special about a plant that climbs, that doesn't stay low or wide, but reaches upward gently, gracefully toward the light. Clematis is one of those dreamers. In the world of container gardening, it's the artist painting trellises, railings, and porch columns with blooms so beautiful they almost don't look real. If you've ever felt your garden lacked a bit of height or drama, clematis is the answer. With just a pot, a little support, and a sunny spot, this flowering vine can transform your patio into a private sanctuary, blooming from spring through summer and in some varieties, even again in fall. Clematis flowers come in a dazzling array of sizes and shades. Some are as small and starry as a button, others stretch wide like dinner plates. The colors span from soft whites and pastel pinks to deep purples, bright magentas, and striking blues. Many have lovely centers, creamy stamens, striped petals, or ruffled edges that make each bloom feel like a carefully painted masterpiece. For containers, choose a compact or patio-friendly variety. Some types grow only 3 to 6 feet tall and are ideal for small spaces. Start with a tall container at least 18 inches deep with good drainage and rich potting soil. Plant your clematis a bit deeper than it was in the nursery pot, about 2 inches of stem below the soil surface. This encourages strong roots and helps protect against disease. Now for the most important part, support. Clematis is a climber, but it needs something to hold on to. A small trellis, an old metal gate, a bamboo teepee, or even a simple branch structure will do. Just make sure it's anchored well. As the plant grows, you can guide its delicate stems by gently tying them with garden twine or clips. Before long, it will find its own way. Sunlight is key. Clematis blooms best when it gets at least 6 hours of sun a day. But here's the trick: while the flowers love sun, the roots prefer to stay cool. In garden terms, we say head in the sun, feet in the shade. You can achieve this in a pot by placing a few low plants like sedum or creeping phlox around the base. Or simply tuck the container in a place where the bottom stays shaded in the afternoon. Water consistently, but avoid soggy soil. Clematis likes steady moisture and benefits from a slow-release fertilizer in spring. After flowering, give it a light prune to encourage new growth or simply enjoy the natural form. When in bloom, clematis can stop you in your tracks. It adds vertical interest and privacy to even the smallest spaces. It climbs without chaos. It blooms with elegance. And perhaps most beautifully, it teaches us to reach slowly, quietly, but surely. Because growth isn't always wide. Sometimes it's upward toward new light, new seasons, and new joys. Now here's a plant with a name that might make you hesitate: lungwort. It sounds more like a remedy from a dusty old apothecary than a charming garden perennial. But don't let the name fool you. This plant is a hidden treasure beloved by shade gardeners for its early blooms, unique foliage, and remarkable resilience. Lungwort, or pulmonaria, has leaves that look as though someone gently splattered them with silver paint. The spots vary from soft speckles to bold blotches, giving each leaf its own personality. No two are exactly the same. It's like having a pot full of little green canvases, each one dancing with light in its own quiet way. In early spring, before most plants have even woken up, lungwort sends out clusters of bell-shaped flowers in shades of pink, blue, or white. Sometimes on the same plant, you'll get a delightful mix, flowers changing color as they age, creating a two-toned bouquet above the dappled foliage. It's a joyful sight when everything else still feels tucked in for winter. To grow lungwort in a container, choose a medium-sized pot with good drainage. Fill it with a rich, well-aerated potting mix that retains some moisture. Lungwort likes its soil moist but not soggy. It thrives in part to full shade, making it a wonderful choice for those shadowy spots on your patio, under trees, or along the north side of your home. Once planted, lungwort asks for very little. Water when the top inch of soil feels dry, and mulch the surface to help retain moisture during warm spells. It doesn't like extreme heat, so if you live in a hot climate, place it where it will be sheltered from afternoon sun. What makes lungwort especially appealing in container gardens is its year-round interest. Even after its flowers fade, the foliage remains beautiful, and unlike many delicate shade plants, lungwort is tough. It resists deer and rabbits, shrugs off occasional dryness, and handles cold with quiet endurance. Lungwort also makes a beautiful companion to other shade lovers like hostas ferns and astilbes. Its spotted leaves contrast beautifully with solid greens or golds, and its low-growing habit means it fits neatly at the front of a container design. And here's a quiet little secret: lungwort is often one of the first perennials to bloom each year. While snow still lingers and other plants are waiting for warmth, lungwort braves the chill and begins to open. It reminds us that beauty can come early, even in hard seasons. That sometimes what seems unlikely, a flower blooming in cold, is precisely what lifts our spirits. So yes, the name may sound strange, but the gift is real. Lungwort is a plant for those who notice the small things, the ones who find beauty in silver spots and early blossoms. The gardeners who know that subtle doesn't mean boring, it means lasting. If there were ever a plant that aged like fine wine, it's the hosta. With each passing year, it grows fuller, more stately, and more serene. There's a reason gardeners call them the kings and queens of the shade. They reign quietly with lush foliage and graceful presence. And in a container, they bring elegance without effort. Hostas come in an astonishing variety of sizes and shades. You've got tiny little mouse ear hostas that nestle into teacup-sized pots, and grand leafy giants that can fill a barrel on their own. Their leaves range from chartreuse to blue-green, with striking variegation in creamy white silvers or sunny yellows. Some are smooth and glossy. Others are deeply textured like quilted fabric catching the light. But what all hostas share is their incredible ability to thrive in shade. If you've got a covered porch, a north-facing patio, or a quiet nook beneath a tree, a container full of hosta is like planting calm itself. They don't bloom dramatically, though many do produce tall spikes of delicate lavender or white flowers in summer, sometimes even fragrant. But it's really the foliage that steals the show. To grow hostas in a container, start with a generous pot at least 12 inches deep and wide. They appreciate room to spread their roots. Choose a rich, moisture-retentive potting mix and make sure your container drains well. Hostas like consistent moisture but hate sitting in soggy soil. Place your pot where it receives bright, indirect light or just a touch of morning sun. The blue-toned hostas especially prefer cooler, shadier spots to preserve their color. In warmer regions, make sure they're protected from hot afternoon rays. Water regularly, especially during dry spells, and feed your plant with a balanced fertilizer once or twice during the growing season. That's it. No pruning, no deadheading, no drama. Just a reliable burst of foliage that returns each spring bigger and more beautiful. What's lovely about hostas in containers is how easily they can stand alone or be part of a grouping. One large hosta in a decorative pot makes a bold sculptural statement. Or you can pair a medium hosta with a trailing plant like creeping jenny or sweet potato vine for a more layered look. In fall, as the weather cools, many hostas turn golden, another soft gift before winter. And when the leaves eventually retreat for the season, they leave behind the quiet promise of return. I often think hostas are like us in our later years. Less about flash, more about grace. Deep-rooted, consistent, happy in the shade and always adding beauty even when the world rushes by. If you want a plant that feels like an old soul, faithful and quietly lovely, then hostas will make you feel right at home. There's a kind of garden beauty that feels like a handwritten letter, soft, thoughtful, and a little bit nostalgic. That's the charm of hardy geraniums. Not to be confused with their showier annual cousins, these perennial varieties offer a gentler kind of loveliness, one that settles into a container and stays growing more delightful with each passing year. Hardy geraniums are sometimes called crane's bills, and they have a wildflower grace that suits any patio or porch. Their leaves are often finely cut or rounded, forming neat mounds of textured greenery. But when the flowers come, and they do often and abundantly, they light up the whole arrangement with soft five-petaled blooms in shades of lavender, pink, white, magenta, or blue. The blooms may be smaller than those big-box annual geraniums you see in window boxes, but they come in waves throughout the season. After each flush, a light trim encourages even more flowers. It's like the plant is quietly persistent, determined to keep offering beauty no matter what. Hardy geraniums are a dream in containers. Most varieties stay tidy and compact, making them ideal for medium pots. Start with a good quality potting mix that drains well. These plants like consistent moisture but don't want to sit in wet soil. A clay or terracotta pot works beautifully. It breathes and balances the moisture just right. Place your pot in a spot with morning sun and afternoon shade or bright dappled light all day. Some varieties tolerate full sun in cooler climates, but most appreciate a little break from the heat in the afternoon. What makes hardy geraniums truly special is their versatility. You can use them as a solo feature in a rustic pot, or tuck them between taller perennials like hostas or lavender. Their mounded shape helps soften the edges of containers, and their long bloom time adds consistent color through spring, summer, and even into fall. And there's more. Many varieties have foliage that turns brilliant red or orange in autumn, giving you yet another season of beauty. In winter, they'll go to sleep quietly, waiting to return stronger the next spring. Maintenance is as simple as it gets: occasional watering, a little grooming, and perhaps a light fertilizer once or twice during the growing season. Divide every few years if needed, or let them settle in. They're content either way. There's a comfort to hardy geraniums. They're like a neighbor who waves from their porch each morning, steady, friendly, always there when you need a lift. Not loud, not fussy, just simple grace in a pot. In a world that sometimes feels overwhelming, these gentle flowers remind us of slower days, softer colors, and the joy of something that just quietly keeps showing up, offering more than it takes. Some plants shimmer like water, not with color but with movement. Japanese forest grass Hakonekloa makra is one of those rare beauties that feels like a living fountain. It doesn't need blooms to impress. Instead, it sways cascades and whispers, bringing serenity to every shaded nook it touches. For the container gardener craving softness and grace, Japanese forest grass is a treasure. Its arching blades spill gently over pots like strands of golden ribbon or fresh green silk. In the breeze it moves as if breathing, never stiff, never hurried. Just present, peaceful, almost meditative. There are a few varieties to choose from. Aureola offers a golden yellow hue with green stripes and glows like morning sun filtered through lace curtains. All gold is even brighter, almost lemon lime. And then there's the classic green variety, subtle and calming like a mossy woodland path. What makes this plant special, especially for older gardeners, is how little effort it asks. It thrives in part to full shade and prefers cool spots protected from afternoon heat. That makes it ideal for shaded patios, north-facing balconies, or tucked beneath taller plants like hostas or ferns. It brings light to dim places, not with color, but with form and motion. To grow Japanese forest grass in a pot, choose a wide, shallow container. This plant likes to spread sideways rather than dig deep. Use a moisture-retentive but well-draining mix. Add compost or a bit of leaf mold to mimic the forest soil it loves. Water consistently, especially in dry spells, but avoid soggy roots. A layer of mulch or moss on top can help keep the soil cool and damp. Unlike some grasses that shoot skyward or look unruly, Japanese forest grass stays neat and flowing like the hem of a silk dress fluttering just above the ground. It rarely needs pruning. Just trim back old growth in late winter or early spring before new blades emerge. One of my favorite things about this plant is how it changes with the seasons. In spring and summer, it's vibrant and full of life. In fall, many varieties blush with pink or copper tones, catching low light like firelight on gold. Even in winter dormancy, its dried form remains elegant, arching, and delicate. This is not a plant that steals the spotlight. It enhances it. Place it beside bold-leafed hostas beneath a tall pot of astilbo, or let it flow over the rim of an old ceramic urn. It adds harmony, softness, and rhythm to any arrangement. Japanese forest grass is like the gentle friend who doesn't speak often but always knows what to say. It brings stillness where there is noise, grace where there is clutter, and beauty that you don't just see, you feel. Let it remind you, dear friend, that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply move gently through the world. Imagine looking out your window in February when most plants are sleeping, the ground still cold, and spring feels far away, and seeing flowers blooming through the frost. That's the quiet magic of hellebores, also called Lenten roses. These perennials are among the first to bloom, often when we need beauty most. There's something miraculous about a plant that chooses the coldest part of the year to show its face. Hellebores don't wait for perfect conditions. They bloom anyway, calmly, confidently, with nodding flowers in shades of white plum rose and near black, often accented with delicate freckling or ruffled edges. In a container, hellebores are simply stunning. Their evergreen foliage forms a dark, glossy base year-round, giving structure to your pots through every season. And when those soft blossoms emerge in late winter or early spring, it feels like a quiet celebration. They don't demand attention, but they command respect. To grow hellebores in pots, choose a sturdy container at least 12 inches deep. These plants have a slow, steady root system that appreciates room to stretch. Use a rich, well-draining potting mix with compost or aged leaf mold mixed in. Good drainage is key. Hellebores dislike soggy soil, especially in cold months. Place the pot in partial shade or dappled sun. Morning light is welcome, but harsh afternoon heat isn't necessary. These plants thrive in cooler conditions and are hardy in zones 4 to 9, depending on the variety. Water when the soil feels dry to the touch, but don't overdo it. They're drought tolerant once established. One of the beautiful surprises of hellebores is just how long their blooms last. A single flower can stay looking fresh for weeks, often longer than any spring bulb or annual. And while they face downward naturally, a charming trait that protects their blooms from rain and frost, new varieties have more upward-facing blossoms, making them easier to admire from a porch chair or patio window. Pair hellebores in containers with trailing ivy, small ferns, or coral bells for a year-round arrangement that never looks tired. Even as the seasons shift, their dark green leaves anchor the display, offering quiet interest, even in dormancy. As the years go by, hellebores become more generous, more blooms, fuller clumps, and deeper colors. You can even divide them every few years to start new pots or share with friends. They're plants that give more than they take in every way. And perhaps that's the most touching thing about them. In the darkest months, when other plants hide or wait, hellebores bloom. Quietly, persistently, with grace. They remind us that beauty doesn't need warmth to thrive. Sometimes it emerges right through the cold, resilient, brave, and breathtaking. Close your eyes and imagine brushing past a pot on your porch, the breeze carrying a warm scent that instantly soothes your nerves. That's lavender, not just a plant, but an experience. Its soft gray-green foliage, spiky purple blooms, and calming fragrance make it one of the most beloved perennials in gardens everywhere. And in containers, it's pure joy in a pot. Lavender is more than pretty. It's practical too. It supports pollinators, repels certain pests, and can be harvested for homemade sachets, teas oils, or even a simple bundle hung by the window. But perhaps its greatest gift is the way it makes you feel. Just one whiff can turn a stressful moment into a gentle breath of peace. When it comes to containers, lavender shines especially on porches, patios, or sunny balconies where space is limited but sunshine is abundant. It thrives in full sun and dry conditions, making it ideal for gardeners who prefer a more hands-off approach. To grow lavender in a container, start with a medium to large pot at least 12 inches deep, preferably made of terracotta or another breathable material. This helps keep the roots from staying too damp. Use a light, well-draining potting mix. Even cactus soil works well. Lavender hates wet feet, so be sure that drainage holes are clear and effective. Water thoroughly but infrequently. Allow the soil to dry out between waterings and resist the urge to pamper it too much. Lavender prefers a bit of struggle. It's in that slight stress where its fragrance deepens and the plant strengthens. If the stems become woody or sparse, a gentle pruning after flowering will keep it neat and full. There are many types of lavender, but English lavender, lavandula angustifolia, is often the best for containers. Varieties like Hidcote or Munstead are compact, highly fragrant, and bloom reliably in late spring and again in late summer with proper care. Visually, lavender is stunning on its own or paired with other drought-tolerant plants like rosemary, thyme, or sedum. Its silvery leaves contrast beautifully against green foliage, and its blooms stand tall and proud like little purple torches waving gently in the breeze. And oh, that fragrance! Whether you're sipping your morning tea, reading a book, or simply watching the sky change colors at dusk, the scent of lavender creates a sanctuary. It reminds you to slow down, breathe deeper, and notice the small joys. Even cut stems continue to give. You can dry the flowers for sachets to tuck in drawers, make tea to soothe an anxious heart, or tie bundles to hang in your home. Its beauty you can bring indoors, carry with you, and share. Lavender is the perfect closing note in a garden filled with easy, elegant perennials. It doesn't just survive, it enriches. Like so many things in life, after 60, it teaches us that strength and softness can live side by side. It says, even now you are still blooming, and your presence brings peace. Now that we've walked through 15 of the most dependable, beautiful, and low-maintenance perennials for your containers, let's pause and talk about something just as important: how to give them the best possible home. Because even the most forgiving plants deserve a good start and a thoughtful pot. Let's begin with the soil. When planting in containers, always choose a high-quality potting mix, never garden soil. Why? Because garden soil becomes heavy and compact in pots, almost like concrete, suffocating the roots and making it hard for water to drain. Potting mix, on the other hand, is light, airy, and specifically designed to hold moisture without drowning your plants. For certain plants like lavender or sedum, you can mix in a little sand or perlite to improve drainage even more. Next, consider your containers themselves. You don't need anything fancy or expensive. In fact, some of the best planters are repurposed old enamel basins, wooden crates, even chipped ceramic bowls with holes drilled in. The key is drainage. Make sure your container has at least one good-sized hole at the bottom. If water can't escape, roots will rot no matter how tough the plant. When filling your container, don't put rocks or pebbles at the bottom. That old myth has been debunked. Instead, fill the entire pot with your potting mix, leaving about an inch of space from the top so water doesn't spill over when you water. Speaking of watering, this is where many container gardens live or die. Pots dry out more quickly than in-ground gardens, especially in hot weather. A good rule of thumb, stick your finger into the soil about an inch. If it feels dry at that depth, it's time to water. Water deeply until you see it draining from the bottom. That's how you know it's reached the roots. Overwatering is just as dangerous as underwatering, especially for drought-tolerant plants like lavender or sedum. And during the rainy season, don't be afraid to move your containers under a covered area to let them dry out a bit. Fertilizer helps, but it doesn't have to be complicated. A slow-release granular fertilizer applied in spring can feed your plants all season long. Or if you prefer a light liquid feed every 3-4 weeks, will do the job just as well. Just don't overdo it too much. Fertilizer can cause leggy growth or reduced blooming. One more tip, dear friend, rotate your pots every week or two. This ensures even growth, especially for sun-loving plants that might otherwise lean toward the light. It also gives you a fresh view, a new little joy each time you step outside. With the right soil, proper watering, and a bit of love, your perennial containers will reward you not just this year, but for many seasons to come. No bending, no digging, just a simple walk outside to see what's growing, blooming, or quietly thriving. Because gardening in containers isn't about having less. It's about doing more with what you have: a small pot, a sunny step, a gentle moment with nature. So, here we are, dear friend. The teacup is nearly empty, the sun a little lower, the breeze a little cooler on your neck. But your heart, I hope it's full. Full of ideas, inspiration, and a gentle confidence that even now in this season of life, your hands still create beauty. What we've talked about today isn't just about plants. It's about creating ease where there used to be effort. It's about choosing peace over perfection. And most of all, it's about building a little world right outside your door that blooms again and again, just like you have. Maybe you'll start with one pot, one coral bell, or one hosta. Maybe it will sit near your favorite chair where the morning light hits just so. And maybe each time you pass it, you'll remember that your garden doesn't need to be big or fancy to be meaningful. It only needs to reflect you, your story, your care, your quiet love for life. You see, perennials are not in a rush. They're not trying to outshine one another. They don't panic when the frost comes or the flowers fall. They simply rest and return. A little older, a little stronger. Isn't that a beautiful thing to bloom again, not in spite of time, but because of it? And I hope truly that one of the 15 plants we shared today has found a home in your heart. Whether it's the velvet of lamb's ear, the perfume of lavender, or the early surprise of hellebores, I hope you found something that feels like you. Strong, soft, steady, beautiful. Tell me which one brought you the most joy. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your garden dreams, your little container triumphs. Leave a comment below and let's keep this gentle circle of inspiration blooming. And if this visit felt like a breath of fresh air, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell. There's always more to share, more to create, more ways to let beauty grow, especially in the golden years. Until next time, my dear friend, may your days be calm, your containers full, and your spirit lifted by every leaf, every bloom, every small thing you've tended into joy.